Okay, so picture this.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a kid, right?
Yeah.
In occupational therapy, learning,
Right.
learning how to eat with a spoon.
Okay.
Seems pretty straightforward. But
Yeah.
what if this kid, like, can't stand certain textures? Like the
Mm-hmm.
food, just the way it feels is totally overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, it's not so simple anymore, right?
No, not at all. No.
Like, that's what we're going to dig into today.
Okay.
We've got this article, and it really got me thinking because it basically asks,
Wait.
you know how there's all this talk about ABA therapy
Mm-hmm.
and whether it can actually do more harm than good sometimes?
Yeah.
This article's like, hold on a second.
Okay.
Shouldn't we be looking at other types of therapy the same way?
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Because we kind of take it for granted, right? That occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, it's all good. It's all,
It's all helpful. Yeah.
it's going to help.
Right.
But this article is saying, well, maybe not always.
Well, and it's interesting because with ABA, there's a history there.
Right.
Some of the stuff they used to do, it was
Oh, absolutely.
like not great, to put it mildly, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, it's changed a lot, but people still have that
They do.
that stigma, that association, and
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, right?
exactly.
Are there other therapies where maybe we're not looking closely enough because
Yeah.
we just assume
Because we just assume it's good. Yeah.
all good intentions?
Right, exactly.
And
Mm-hmm.
this article, they really hone in on
Wait.
OT, PT, and then speech therapy.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, before we go any further, it's really important to say,
Sure.
we're not saying these therapies are bad.
Of course not. No.
Not at all.
Right.
Tons of people, they get so much out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It helps them.
It can be life-changing.
So this is not about
Yeah.
demonizing anything.
Right. It's not about saying don't do therapy. It's
Right.
more about, okay, let's be honest.
Exactly.
Where can things go wrong even when everyone's trying their best?
Yeah, and how do we make it even better?
Right, exactly.
Because nothing's perfect.
It's about that nuance, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, most therapists, I mean, they're amazing people. They really care.
Yeah.
But we're all human.
Well, yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
things fall through the cracks. Good intentions only go so far.
Right, right.
And that's where I think this article is really helpful because it's saying, hey, let's shine a light on those gray areas.
Exactly.
Where things get tricky.
Like that example I gave before with the occupational therapy and the kid who's got the, sensory stuff going on.
Right.
And the texture of the food is just
Yeah.
too much.
It can be really overwhelming for some kids.
It can be. And then you think you're
Yeah.
trying to teach them this life skill.
Right. Important skill.
Well, use a spoon.
Yeah. But if they're associating it with this awful feeling,
Exactly.
it backfires.
Yeah, and this article makes this point about forced compliance.
Which, yeah, that's a big one.
It's like you have to do this,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're ready or not.
Right. And for some kids, that's just, it's too much, too soon.
It is. It can be.
Yeah, you got to meet them where they're at.
You do.
And sometimes that means going slower,
Right.
being more patient.
And I think that could be hard, right, for therapists because
It can be.
they
Yeah.
see the goal.
They have a plan.
It's like, this is how we get there.
Let's do it.
Yeah. But sometimes you got to adjust, right?
Right. And that can be hard.
It can be. Yeah. It takes a lot of, I think, self-awareness from the therapist too, right?
That does.
To be able to say, okay, my plan isn't working. I need to switch it up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about me. It's about them.
It is. And it's so easy to lose sight of that.
Oh, it is.
I mean, even just in, day-to-day life, right? Right. Exactly.
But in a therapy setting, it's heightened.
Yeah, absolutely. The stakes are higher.
Because it's not just
It's-
about
yeah.
learning a skill. It's about,
It's their well-being, their sense of self.
yes,
It's a big deal.
it is.
And the thing is, this whole compliance thing,
Right.
it's not just, about like the sensory stuff in OT.
Okay.
Think about like a kid who's learning to get dressed.
Right.
They've got their favorite shirt,
Oh, yeah.
but it's got buttons and it takes forever.
Right.
And the
well,
therapist is like, nope, we're putting on this pullover today.
right. Because it's
It's easier, it's quicker.
on the list.
We got to move on.
We got to make progress.
But the kid's like, but I wanted to wear my dinosaur shirt.
Exactly. And then what are you saying to them, really?
Yeah, you're saying your preference doesn't matter.
Right.
Your opinion, your comfort, it's not important.
I know better.
And for a kid, I mean,
Yeah,
that's tough.
it is. That can stick with you.
It can really affect how they see themselves.
It makes me think we forget sometimes that the process of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
like the actual experience of it,
Yeah.
is just as important
If not more so, yeah.
as whatever the goal is.
It's not just about checking boxes.
Right.
It's about building that trust.
Yeah, yes.
Empowering the person.
Making them feel seen.
Exactly.
That's
It's about the whole person.
It is, yeah.
Not just the, the problem we're trying to fix.
Right, because everyone's got their own,
Yeah.
their own way of experiencing the world.
Exactly.
And if you're not honoring that,
if you're not respecting that,
yeah,
then the therapy, it's not going to be as effective.
it's not.
I
And
agree.
it might even...
It might even do more harm than good.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which is,
Which defeats the purpose.
exactly defeats the whole purpose.
Right. So
Yeah, it's something to think about for sure.
it's a lot to unpack. And I think this article does a great job of
Laying it all out there.
it's thought-provoking.
It is. And, it's not just about OT either.
Right.
They talk about PT and
They do.
speech therapy, and it's like this whole theme of individual needs, communication styles.
It's all connected.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. And I think especially when we're talking about something like PT,
Okay.
which, most people think of it as like, oh, I hurt my knee, I got to go to PT.
Yay.
Get some exercises.
Back to normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even there's this potential for, like you said, forcing things too much and not listening to the person's body.
Their experience.
Exactly.
Because pain.
Yeah, pain is a big one.
Pain is a big deal.
It is. And it's tricky because, some PT exercises, they're going to be uncomfortable.
They are.
That's just the nature of it.
Right. You're
Pushing your limits.
Pushing your body.
Right. But there's a difference between, like, discomfort and actual pain.
Yes.
And I think that's where it's so important for the therapist to be really tuned into the patient, to be able to say,
Are you okay?
Yeah, how are you feeling? What are you feeling?
Tell me.
Because if they're so focused on like, okay, you need to be able to bend your knee at a 90-degree angle by week 3.
That's the goal.
Right. And they're ignoring the fact that the person is like, in agony.
In so much pain.
That's a problem.
It is. And it's like that old saying, no pain, no gain.
Right, exactly.
Taken way too far.
Taken to a dangerous extreme.
It is, because you think about it, if you're ignoring someone's pain, you're not just
hurting them physically.
Right. You're hurting that trust.
Exactly.
You're hurting that relationship.
You are. You're breaking down that rapport.
And that's crucial.
That's essential for any kind of therapy.
It is, because if you don't have that, what do you have?
Exactly. You have nothing to build on.
Right. You're starting from scratch every time.
Every single session is an uphill battle.
It is.
And then it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, too, like, how much of this pressure to achieve these milestones, these goals, how much of that's coming from, like, the outside, the system, insurance companies, standardized tests.
Right, because it's all about data now.
It's all about data. It's all about outcomes.
Show me the numbers.
Prove that this is working.
And I get it,
Right.
We need to be able to measure these things.
Of course.
But when it's at the expense of the individual's experience.
The individual's well-being.
Then it's like, are we really?
Then we've lost sight of the goal.
We've lost the plot.
Exactly.
And it made me think, too, about this idea of, like, shame and criticism in therapy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because it happens, right?
It does. It definitely happens.
It's like, if you don't.
Why aren't you better yet? Yeah. Or you should be further along by now.
You're not trying hard enough.
Come on, let's go.
And that's just, it's so damaging.
It is.
Especially for kids. I mean, right.
Who are already figuring things out.
Yeah.
Trying to find their place.
And then you layer that on top of it.
Exactly. It's like adding insult to injury.
It is. And it made me think about this one part of the article where they talk about speech therapy specifically.
Yeah.
And how, we communicate in so many different ways.
We do.
And yet there's this emphasis on
verbal speech.
Verbalization.
Right. As if that's the only way.
That's the goal.
That's the gold standard.
And if you're not doing that, then you're somehow...
We're not there yet.
You're not there yet.
We need to fix you.
And it's like, imagine, you've got a child who communicates perfectly well through sign language or through
an AAC device.
An AAC device, yeah. Right. They're making their needs known.
They are.
They're expressing themselves.
They're connecting with people.
But they're not talking.
And
so we're going to focus on that.
And we're going to make that the priority.
Instead of celebrating what they can do.
Yes.
We're going to focus on what they can't.
It's like saying their way of communicating isn't good enough.
Exactly.
We need to fix you.
You need to change you.
And that can be
so damaging.
So damaging.
Especially for kids who are still, like you said, developing their identity.
Exactly.
Trying to figure out who they are in the world.
And then to have someone tell you, that a fundamental part of who you are isn't good enough.
Isn't the right way.
It's heartbreaking to think about.
It is. It really is.
And I think that ties into this whole thing about shame and criticism in therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's so easy to internalize those messages.
Oh, it is. Especially when you're already feeling vulnerable. Yeah. Which, let's face it, most people in therapy are feeling vulnerable.
They are. They're there for a reason.
Exactly. They're reaching out for help.
And then to be met with criticism or judgment.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's the opposite of what they need.
It is.
They need support. They need encouragement.
They need to feel safe.
Exactly.
And I think that's what this whole conversation boils down to is creating that safe space.
Creating a space where people feel seen and heard.
Exactly.
Where they feel like they can be themselves.
Yes.
Without judgment.
And where they can make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Because that's how we learn. Right.
That's how we grow.
Yeah. Through making mistakes. And
through trial and error.
And having someone there to support us along the way.
Exactly. Someone who's got your back no matter what.
That's what it's all about.
It is. It's about that therapeutic relationship.
That connection.
That connection, that bond.
Because if you don't have that...
If you don't have that foundation of trust,
yeah,
then everything else crumbles.
It does. It just falls apart.
It does. And you're back to square one.
Exactly. And I think that's why this whole conversation is so important.
It is. It's crucial.
Because we need to be talking about these things.
We do.
We need to be aware of these potential pitfalls.
Absolutely.
So that we can create...
a better experience for everyone.
Exactly.
For both the therapists and the people they're serving.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
It is.
It's about helping people.
Helping people live their best lives.
Exactly.
And sometimes that means having these tough conversations.
It does. It does. But I think it's worth it.
It is. Absolutely.
Because if we can make even a small difference in someone's life.
Even a small change can have a ripple effect.
It can.
It can change the trajectory of their whole life.
It really can.
And that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about.
Making a positive impact.
And I think we can all agree that that's something worth striving for.
Absolutely. Something worth fighting for.
So, listeners,
yeah,
if you're out there and you're thinking about therapy for yourself,
right,
or for a loved one,
or you're a therapist yourself,
exactly,
yeah,
keep these things in mind.
Keep asking questions.
Don't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid to speak up.
Speak up, yeah.
If something doesn't feel right,
trust your gut.
Trust your instincts, absolutely.
Because you know yourself better than anyone.
You are the expert on your own experience.
Exactly. So advocate for yourself.
Advocate for your needs.
And don't settle.
Don't settle for anything less than what you deserve.
And I think that's a good place to
wrap things up.
To wrap things up.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on.
It is.
Empowerment.
Empowerment.
Advocacy.
Those are the key takeaways.
Absolutely.
So listeners, until next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
We'll see you next time.